I used to run a butcher shop in Estes Park, Colorado. Do you know the town? It's a renowned place, though not always for the best reasons. 99 was a sinister year, and on the summer of that year, July 30th to be precise, my wife, Lisa, and I left the kids with her parents so we could have a couple's weekend away. We booked a stay at a charming inn along the Fall River, known for its scenic views and cozy rooms. It was called the Copper Moon Inn. And let me tell you, it was an experience I'll never forget. When we arrived, we walked into the reception area and rang the bell because no one was there. "Hello?" I called out toward the back room behind the desk, expecting a response. We heard steps coming closer, calm and deliberate. Then he appeared. A tall, slender man with pale skin, a gaunt face and wide, unsettling eyes. He placed his large hands on top of the desk, and I couldn't help but stare at them. His nails, they were caked with something dark, almost like pudding. For someone working at the reception of an inn, it was strange that he didn't take better care of his hands. I wasn't expecting a manicure, but at the very least he could have cleaned the dirt from under his fingernails. He noticed me staring a little too long, but didn't say a word about it.
"What can I do for you?"
he asked, his face completely emotionless. I glanced at the name tag on his shirt, Silas Blackwood. "Good morning, Mr. Blackwood," I said. My wife and I made a reservation for the weekend. Something about him made us uneasy. There was an eerie tension in the air, like the calm before a storm. Behind him was a bookstand. He reached for a large ledger and slammed it onto the reception desk. We both jumped at the noise. He opened the ledger and I said, "Mr. Jeter," hoping to make his search easier. He scanned the names without looking at us, his index finger tracing the entries. The dirt under his nails was even more noticeable now.
"Yes, Jeter. You've already paid for 2 nights. I need your ID."
I realized I'd left my wallet in the car. "I'll go get it," I told him. "Honey, can you wait here? I'll be quick." I ran out to the car, grabbed my wallet, and hurried back. When I returned, Mr. Blackwood was still there, his expression just as cold and unreadable as before. But my wife, she was gone. As I handed him my ID, my eyes darted around the room, searching for Lisa. She was nowhere to be seen. "Have you seen my wife, sir?" I asked Mr. Blackwood.
"She said she would wait for you in the room."
He replied, handing me the keys.
"Room 13, up the stairs, on the first floor to the right."
That's what he said. But something felt off. Why would Lisa go to the room without me? She wouldn't do that. Not without saying something. I took the keys and climbed the stairs, my heart pounding with every step. The hallway was dimly lit, the wallpaper peeling, and the air smelled faintly of mildew. Room 13 was at the end of the hall, its door slightly ajar. I pushed it open. "Lisa," I called out. No answer. The room was empty. The bed was neatly made, the curtains drawn, and the only sound was the faint ticking of an old clock on the wall. But no Lisa. I turned around to head back downstairs, but the door slammed shut behind me. I tried the handle. It was locked. "Lisa," I shouted, banging on the door. "Mr. Blackwood, let me out." No response. That's when I noticed something strange. The clock on the wall. It was ticking backward. And the numbers. They were written in blood. I felt a cold breath on the back of my neck. I spun around, but there was no one there. Just the faint sound of whispering, like voices coming from the walls.
"Get out, get out,"
they seemed to say. I grabbed a chair and smashed the window. The glass shattered, and I climbed out onto the fire escape. The rain was pouring now, and the wind howled like a wounded animal. I ran back to the reception. My clothes soaked, my heart racing. "Mr. Blackwood," I yelled, "where's my wife?" But the reception was empty. The ledger was gone. The bell was gone. Even the bookstand was gone. That's when I heard it. A scream. Lisa's scream. It came from below, deep beneath the inn. I followed the sound, down a narrow staircase I hadn't noticed before. The air grew colder, the walls damp and covered, in strange symbols. At the bottom of the stairs was a heavy wooden door. I pushed it open, and what I saw, I'll never forget. The basement was lit by a single flickering bulb. Chains hung from the ceiling, and the floor was stained with dark, dried blood. In the center of the room was a table, and on that table was Lisa. She was strapped down, her eyes wide with terror. Mr. Blackwood stood over her, a knife in his hand. He turned to me, his wide eyes gleaming in the dim light.
You weren't supposed to find us.
I lunged at him, but he was faster. He swung the knife, slicing my arm. I stumbled back, but I didn't stop. I grabbed a chain from the wall and swung it at him, hitting him square in the face. He fell to the ground, and I rushed to Lisa. "We have to go," I said, fumbling with the straps. But it was too late. Mr. Blackwood was already back on his feet. He grabbed me from behind, his grip like iron.
You're not leaving.
He whispered in my ear. I fought with everything I had, but he was too strong. He dragged me to the corner of the room and threw me into a cell, slamming the door shut. "Lisa!" I screamed, pounding on the bars. Mr. Blackwood returned to the table, his knife glinting in the dim light. Lisa's screams echoed through the basement as he... I can't bring myself to say it. But I watched. I watched as he took her from me. When he was done, he left the basement, locking the door behind him. I was alone, trapped in that cell, surrounded by the stench of death. But I wasn't going to die there. Not like that. I searched the cell for anything I could use. In the corner, I found a rusty nail. It wasn't much, but it was enough. I worked on the lock for what felt like hours, until finally, it clicked. I crept out of the cell, my heart pounding. Mr. Blackwood was upstairs, his footsteps heavy on the floor above. I didn't have much time. But first, Lisa. I rushed to the table, my hands trembling as I reached for her. Her skin was ice cold. "Lisa, Lisa," I whispered, shaking her shoulders. No response. I pressed 2 fingers to her neck, praying for a pulse. Nothing. Her eyes stared blankly at the ceiling, unblinking. A trickle of blood ran from the corner of her mouth. "No, no, no," I choked out, collapsing to my knees. My hands fumbled with the straps binding her wrists, the leather slick with sweat and blood. "We're leaving, understand? We're leaving." But the straps wouldn't budge. Her arm fell limply to her side as I tore at the buckles. That's when I saw it. The jagged cut across her throat, deep and deliberate. A sob tore through me. I pressed my forehead to hers, her skin already waxy and pale. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Mr. Blackwood's voice echoed down the stairs, humming a tuneless melody. He was coming back. I stumbled away from the table, my vision blurred with tears. The keys. I needed the keys. I found a set of keys on the wall and unlocked the basement door. The rain was still pouring as I ran into the night, my clothes soaked, my arm bleeding. I didn't stop until I reached the police station. They didn't believe me at first. Who would? But when they saw the state I was in, they had no choice. We returned to the Copper Moon Inn, but Mr. Blackwood was gone. The basement was empty, the table clean, the chains gone. There was no trace of Lisa, but I knew what I saw. The police searched the inn from top to bottom. They found blood stains that couldn't be washed away, tools with traces of DNA, and the ledger filled with names of guests who had checked in but never checked out. Mr. Blackwood was sentenced to life in prison, but Lisa, she was never found. The Copper Moon Inn was shut down and abandoned. But sometimes, late at night, people say they see a light flickering in the basement window. They say they hear whispers carried on the wind, calling out to anyone who dares to listen. As for me, I moved far away from Estes Park. But even now, years later, I still wake up in a cold sweat, hearing Lisa's screams echoing in my mind. And sometimes, just sometimes, I swear I hear Mr. Blackwood's voice whispering my name in the dark.
Hello, Mr. Jeter.
So my friends, if you ever find yourself in Estes Park and you see an inn along the Fall River, keep driving. Don't stop. Don't look back. Because some places, some people, are better left in the shadows.